so weird. It's so bizarre. I don't know. I tend to think, and maybe this is just self-justifying, that it's kind of an important place to be. Because I feel like people like you and possibly such as myself have an opportunity to maybe at some point in some distant future, or maybe in certain limited circumstances, to be able to connect people in a way that would otherwise be very difficult. Because if we can, as these interlocutors, wrap our heads around the way to communicate with people on the one side and the other side, and bring them together long enough to realize that they're human and they're not the devil, then maybe we can actually grasp what's going on here and focus on our problems and kind of break down these silos that unfortunately we in the media have been very good at building up for one another. By the way, I will say that I think it was in 2011, 2012 or so, that I sat for a half an hour in a room in a cruddy little break room in Central Point, Oregon, with Ben Shapiro, as we were engaging in legal strategy around one of our hosts, because and he was just a newbie author at that point before he had built up the Daily Wire empire, and he had been brought in essentially for some legal work by the head of the network. It's just funny how you meet these people and then where they end up in the greater scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you right now? I mean, your reporting and experience is fascinating, but what has it done to where you are, culturally, politically? How has it shaped your mindset and brought you to become the person that you are today?
I think the most valuable experience I had in the past and throughout my entire career was literally just leaving. After midway through the pandemic, I have experienced January 6th. I have had more more and more years of feeling like I'm running into a wall with people in the media and the people who I cover within the political class, of feeling like I just keep having to jump from hemisphere of my brain to the other hemisphere of my brain. And I'm so frustrated. And my old boss from Vanity Fair, John Kelly, launches this startup called Puck, where I'm currently at right now. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that Puck let me do was work from wherever I wanted to. So it was F it, you know what? I'm going on a road trip, and I leave DC for about 6 months. And initially it was to do some reporting on the book there's a chapter literally called The Road Trip. And the initial idea was that I would go visit areas of the country where the MAGA movement was starting to really blow up.
You mean someplace besides a diner in Des Moines?
I really did not want to go to a diner in Des Moines. If I went to a diner, I wanted to eat my bacon in peace, not associated with work. But it was just an opportunity for me to talk to normal people, not as a reporter digging into the drama of the White House or trying to uncover that wrongdoing from Democrats. I was doing what I always wanted to do. I wanted to just talk to people and understand what they were feeling about the entire situation. And everyone I met was just so confused and scared and going I don't know what's true anymore. I don't know what is good or bad anymore. I don't know whether I should trust you as a journalist or not. There was literally one point I went into this church, this religious gathering called the Patriot Church. Of these MAGA aligned pastors who have been going around the country gathering people who were angry at COVID mandates for shutting down their normal churches and being like, no, our pastors are weak and obeying these like government mandates. We want to open our own church and worship and not be restricted from expressing our religious beliefs. And then this guy comes in and goes, yeah, that's true. Also, what if Biden were Satan? But I'm in this group too, and they're all like, and everyone is just so kind to me, and they're just like, you must be here for a reason. You're here to spread the word, aren't you? Like, thank you so much for being here. Like, they were genuinely happy to see me, and I was like, oh my God. I don't think people in America really hate each other. I think everyone's just really scared of what they think the other person's going to do to them.
Yeah.
This is so wrong. And that's honestly where I land right now. I just want to make everyone not scared of each other. And
that is such an important insight because, I ended up, working for the place that I worked with for about 10, 11 years. And you can't like dissociate from that. I mean, these people are human beings. They're good people by and large. And I hate to say, I live in a county that has voted for Trump twice, and you understand that like people are people at a certain level, even if they vote for individuals who you would just view as totally repugnant, and you've got to like. You can't, when you live in a situation like that, you can't not think about that, and you are forced to say, hey, this is a human being in front of you, and there's no space to retreat to, and that's a really important revelation, and I'm so glad that you've had it, and that you're out there and putting that out to other folks.
Yeah, I think the point of the MAGA Diaries is it's a way to understand these institutions that are built on believing in certain things and how they shape the lives of everyone in this country, but I don't think they understand exactly how bad they're doing it.
Yeah.
And normally, if you did this as a normal ass journalist who's just like, hello, I am independent and I am going to one side and I am going to another side and I am like detaching myself from it, it's boring and kind of trite. But like, this is the life I lived. Yeah. This is my process of growing up and living through both of these worlds. And I don't know. I think that's a better way to get a sense of it. So every time I pitch this to an editor, they're like, this is your coming of age. And like, okay, that's kind of what it was. Yeah.
You see, and I wish that had been the case for me too. I stuck with it way too long, and it'll stick with me. And I'm glad that you have had that particular exegesis. I don't think I will get the benefit of that myself. But given that you took that trip, that you are still connected in that way to that world, you were calling this in 2016 and letting people know in their bubbles that Trump was responding to something that really existed. What are you feeling now? It's a different time. A lot more people know who Trump is, but what is the sense that you get from the people that you talk to and from your experience about what is likely to happen next year?
This is not going to sound fun to anyone listening, but this is the first time I truly do not know what's going to happen next. I can't tell what group of people. I can't tell who is going to be more scared of a future under Biden or who is going to be more scared of a future under Trump and what direction they're going to vote in. Like, it is true that in a lot of polls, Trump is in a lot of national polls, Trump is beating Biden. That is, however, if you look at all of the red states who are always going to vote like red. And if you observe them in the aggregate, the fact that Biden is slipping among young people for his support of Israel is alarming. That is not something that existed when this book went to print.
I completely agree. Yeah.
I don't know if the younger generation quite understands what they're voting for, because they remember Trump as this chaotic guy who was being yanked in all directions and just tweeting like mad. This Trump that is coming out is far more disciplined, has stayed off of socials, is ranting on Truth Social, but no one goes there. And initially, when I saw him get kicked off of Twitter, I was like, okay, this is great. We're not going to have civil war right now. But he is quarantined to a place where people can forget that he was that guy who was giving them a headache every time he opened his mouth.
Yeah. It's frightening.
And all you remember of Trump is that, like, hey, the economy was better under him and no one in Gaza was dying.
Yeah. Yeah. And what frightens me too is the fact that, like, the way that mainstream Democrats and the Biden administration are responding to that is, well, just don't do that. Well, what are you thinking? I mean, that isn't adequate. That's not enough to counter dissatisfaction that comes from an earnest place. I mean, they're seeing, people dying, and the threat, even though you and I may know how, like, very real it is from having seen things operate from the inside, is more distant to them. They're seeing how much it costs to buy something. They're seeing, images of people dying, and that can be very immediate. And I think that the Democratic Party, the institution of the Democratic Party, not Democratic voters writ large, needs to have a more effective response than what they're doing so far. And I think it's a much closer thing. I think you're sensing that too than people would like to believe, than people on the left would like to believe.
I actually do go into that in the book as well. There's a hot moment where I'm just, like, tired of covering the right, and I request to go to the progressive side.
Yeah.
Just because, like, I approach covering progressives the same way that I understand the right. They must have large donors who are trying to build these networks and trying to take advantage of this larger moment. They must have an understanding of the population and how people have decided to vote. They do not. They truly do not. And at one point I start talking to this woman in Nebraska who is the chair of the state Democratic Party. And she's like, look, there are a lot of people who would want to vote Democrat in Nebraska. The thing is, the state party is giving me $30,000 for a year. And I was like, what about all these major donors who are opening their checkbooks? And she goes, no, the problem with Democrat donors is that they just seem to chase after the shiny new thing and want instant gratification.
Yeah.
Because, the point of being progressive is that you want to move fast and get the shiny future now.
Yeah.
But
and as you said earlier about the conservative movement, is that they have been doing this for generations. They have been building this for decades, and they're not looking at the next week. They're looking at the next year, the next decade, the next generation, the next century. They have a much longer vision, and they're willing to wait. And the left is not willing to wait. And I think that's a big error.
Oh, absolutely. And it's much better politics to say we can fix the future now, but it's fundamentally conservatism is about, like, holding back. Yeah. And I'm not just saying that as a like broad stereotype of what the right wants. It is literally a tenet of the movement going back to the 1960s